Guys, I'm back for another Walt Presents, and today we're looking at the third animated picture, Fantasia. So, the story goes is Walt was working on a comeback short for Mickey Mouse, which would be known as the Sorcerer's Apprentice. He kind of changed up the character's look, although this is the older style. He would actually have pupils added in and look a little bit more modern because his popularity had started to wane. And he wanted to do something different. He wanted to go beyond the slapstick and produce. I wanted to be something where sheer fantasy would unfold, action controlled by music patterns that had a great charm in the realm of unreality. And I will be referring to some notes if you see me looking down. Disney considered using a well-known conductor to record the music for the Sorcerer's Apprentice. He met Leopold Salkowski, which of the Philadelphia Orchestra, one of the most famous orchestra conductors in the world. He said he would do it for free. So he was happy to collaborate with him, but Disney still paid him $5,000 for his services. Ended up only working for 3 hours uh, on January 9th of 1938 to get the music for the Sorcerer's Apprentice right. But as the cost rose on Sorcerer's Apprentice, Disney knew he couldn't just release this as a short. He needed to make a film. So it was decided to make a feature film of shorts with classical music synced together. Leopold was contacted again, paid $80,000, and brought back and royalties for his services. They both thought the film needed a host, and they decided on Deems Taylor. Deems Taylor was a composer and a critic that was brought forth to provide the commentary that you'll see in the film for each segment. Disney didn't have the ear for music, so he kind of let the conductors pick all the songs that were used, and then from what they chose, they would do the animation. Uh, Segments of over 1,000 artists and technicians were used in making the time what was called the concept feature. And all 8 total pieces were selected to be used. 2 were combined in the Night of on Bald Mountain and Ava Marie. In order to make the film sound like an orchestra, uh, RCA developed what was known as Fantasound, which was used in small roadshow showings. And we know that today is stereo sound. They wanted to sound like a real orchestra was in the theater. Problem is, they only, because it was so costly to make it, in fact, it cost $85,000 at the time to do it, and higher ticket prices. It only was able to air in 13 theaters at the time. It made $1.3 million after a $2.28 million budget, which at the time was incredibly expensive, and it lost Disney a ton of money. It took multiple releases. It did not start making money until 1969. Edits, cuts, I mean, just to try to minimize. A lot of it had to do, of course, with the World War II. Couldn't get the foreign market, had to depend on the American market. Can only air it in 13 screens. Can't make any money. So, uh, all those cuts and edits and stuff started to take its toll on the film. Uh, and when it did make the cash back in 1969, later on, as the 50th anniversary approached, they went through a 2-year restoration to restore the roadshow version of the film, which is the one that the stereo ones were seen, which is what we're watching right here. Uh, 2 years to fix all the problems because the film had literally crumbled from everything that it had went through. It's amazing to me. You would think that out of all studios, I mean, Disney would be more protective of their stuff, but I guess at the time they weren't. Fantasia, but it was a failure. It was released 4 times on home video, first of which was only for 50 days, prompting 9.5 million advance orders, becoming the biggest selling VHS until Beauty and the Beast was released. So where it became the biggest failure, it ended up starting to, like I said, make its turn, make its money back, selling well. But it's only been released 4 times to home video, Blu-ray, DVD, things like that. It was on the AFI list. It's the 58th greatest film ever made. On the original list, it had since dropped off that list. As far as personal reflections, I liked the film. I liked it better this time than I did the last time. Some of the standouts for me were the Nutcracker Suite. If you listen to part of it, you'll actually hear in the Home Alone all the music in here. You know these classical pieces. They've been somewhere. Rite of Spring featured dinosaurs and like the creation of Earth, and that was a really cool one. And A Night on Bald Mountain is a personal favorite. Actually, from reading some of the notes, Bela Lugosi was brought in to become the devil, and they used motion capture, or not motion capture. They actually sketched him moving to capture how the devil would move. So I thought that was a really unique piece. Now I did find out, unfortunately, most of his stuff was discarded, but I did find photos of Bela Lugosi posing, shirtless, getting in the moments, and I thought that was a really neat thing. Because of course I'm a huge Lugosi fan. The But the story with Fantasia doesn't end there. Walt had what he had wanted with Fantasia was to every few years take segments out and put new ones in. Part of his dream kind of came through, but it came after his death because they ended up making a sequel called Fantasia 2000. There were throughout history there'd been other things. He worked with Salvador Dali and some other things, some stuff that was unfinished. It ended up making its appearance in the sequel with only the Sorcerer's Apprentice being the one returning feature. Now I have not seen that version, and we will get to that eventually in these videos. But I mean, overall, I mean, it's a good film. If you like classical music, I think it really, really holds up well. And some shorts are better than others. I think the only thing that I found that I didn't like was there was a intermission, and when they came back from the intermission, they had like a little musical thing to just kind of entertain people for a moment, and that was the only thing that I found really kind of dragged a little bit. But the classical pieces were great. I mean, you hear Mickey. He's like the only character that gets any lines in the film later on during that intermission or after the Sorcerer's Apprentice airs, and spun off a lot of merchandise. I've actually looked up the little broom figures that you see in the Sorcerer's Apprentice. They've made statues of just Mickey and toys and things like that. So it still has its thing, but from what I can tell, 3 films in, Pinocchio has failed, Fantasia had failed, and it took years to find that audience. Where Pinocchio recouped it quicker, Fantasia took many, many years to even become something that was worthy of, in Disney's eye, their name. This has also kind of bothered him that it did fail. And I think he just wanted so much from it. He was trying to give people an experience. That stereo sound, this is the reason we have it, folks. This movie, stereo sound created for that. And I don't know what, wow, as I continue to go through this history, it's neat finding more and more information that I never knew about Disney. And these videos will keep coming. Our next video will end up being Dumbo, and I will have that up for you next Sunday. So as always, I don't think I mentioned it, but this was also the longest Disney animated film in history at 126 minutes when it was released in 1940, November 26th, 1940. And the whole name about Fantasia came about because they needed something. They couldn't call it the concert film, as it was concept feature, excuse me. They couldn't call it. They said that's not going to sell tickets. So Fantasia was the unique name chosen to brand this animation and classical music piece that you got to go into this with a different set of eyes. It's not your typical plot laid film, with all the different segments and things like this. I think we do segmented films down the road, but it's just different. I recommend everybody trying it at least once. I know you can get Fantasia on the Disney Movie Club. You might find used copies of it. I got lucky with this one because it was out of print, but glad to have it and having fun doing this. But, all right, guys, take care. Go watch a movie.